Hello, everybody. I'm Jean-Michel from Free University of Brussels. Now I'm invited professor in Bucharest, but normally I work and I live in Brussels. And we organize this last 9 months different webinar about the political situation in Central and Balkan countries. And we want to organize different roundtable to discuss with researchers, but sometimes with some journalists, some diplomats, some different people from NGO to share information about what happened in the region. The last webinar was about Moldovan election in Moldova, very interesting. And today we organize something to understand what is the situation in Czech Republic. Thank you very much. I want to thank a lot Michel Perottino, my friend and my colleagues, because he organized everything for me. Thank you, Michel, because normally I do everything alone. Then appreciate a lot this friendly help. And Michel know very well which colleagues can help us to understand the situation. I want to say you that we will record the webinar and we will put the webinar on our channel, on your YouTube channel, and then people, students, different people can see our discussion later. I will finish to say you that as we discussed with Masaryk, we have also a blog and we publish some short analysis about political situation. Then please don't hesitate to send us your analysis, your hope, your personal advice. It's not academic papers with footnotes and methodology, etc. 5-page, 10-page. It's largely enough to diffuse information. I think it's important to help people to understand what happened. And I think for some colleagues, it can be also interesting to share the research, and for PhD students, for younger students, or maybe you will publish some interview in the press in Czech, in Slovak, in Hungarian, in Bulgarian, I don't know, and we can translate in English and then offer to your interview, to your analyze, more diffusion, and we will diffuse on different Facebook group. Then I think it can be interesting to know. I will share the link to the webinar. If you are interested to participate to all our activities, international conference, webinar, books, special issue, etc., send us an email, and I had you in my email list if you are not member of this email list. Finally, I want to say you also that we are very interested to continue to organize a webinar, not only about national issue, but also about transversal issue, what happened with, what is the effect of the war in Ukraine, how we can understand what happened in the Visegrad group, and etc., women's politics, environmental politics, etc. Don't hesitate to propose me a title, people for roundtable. The idea is also that this roundtable was not too late, and that this evening you can go to a movie, to TV with your family, or finish your article in delay. Then I think it's a good moment to organize this webinar. Thank you very much for your attention. I think people now are connected, and I give the floor to Michel Perottino.
So thank you, Jean-Michel. For the organization of this webinar. It's your work. It's not mine. I just helped a little. I am very glad also to present our 4 colleagues who will comment this these results. And in a certain way, for me, it's important because it's a cooperation between two universities that are not so oftenly collaborating on such webinars. By alphabetical order, Petra Guasti is a member of our team at the Faculty of Social Sciences, Department of Political Science. Petra is focusing mainly on populism, especially techno-populism, namely, of course, Babiš populism, but not only. She specialized also, for instance, on polarization. Polarization and populism is also the topics that are the specialization of Lubomír Kopeček, a professor of the Masaryk University, and also one of the best specialists in Czech Republic on Andrej Babiš himself. So I'm very glad that he accepted to be here with us this evening. The next one is not for the moment present, but he will be, I hope. It's Michal, also from Masaryk University. He specialized notably on the questions of electoral or political geography. And last but not least, Jakub Stauber from our department at Charles University. Jakub is also specialized on political parties, also on, let's say, personal parties, namely not only anno 2011, but also SPD or public affairs and so on. So very briefly, I will give the floor to all of our presenters. But just in order to, let's say, very slightly frame this first round, I wanted just to recall the results not only of those elections that occurred in Friday and Saturday. You have these results on the right, but also to remember the results 4 years ago in 2021, when the now opposition gained a majority in the House of Commons, let's say. And I just put in this slide not only for the results in itself, but maybe the first comment on those results. Anno 2011 gained more voices or votes than the Social Democracy when it was at its best. It's more or less more than I think 12,000 votes more than in 98, the Social Democracy led by Miloš Zeman. It's the best result ever if we do not take into account the result of the Civic Forum in 1990. So this is maybe quite important. Another interesting number is on the bottom. I just mentioned the result of Andrej Babiš in the two rounds of the presidential election in 23, and you can compare the results. It's not so different. This means that anno 2011 gained practically the results of Andrej Babiš himself in a very specific, of course, election in the presidential election. So what will be our let's say program today? In the first round, I will propose our commentators to comment about the electoral campaigning that we see in the last weeks or months. and of course, a very general comment about the results themselves. After this first round, we will turn into to a second round, and we should focus on the current situation, especially, but not necessarily only, on the first discussions after the publication of the results, and namely the discussions about the future coalition and the future government. So I will put down these tables, and I will let maybe ladies first, Petra Guasti for 5 minutes max, in order to preserve some time for the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Michel, and thank you, Jean-Michel. Bonsoir. So this will be in English. I asked ChatGPT to do it in French, but not in pronunciation. So you will have to stick with me with what I have prepared as a brief, several brief points for this first round. I don't work necessarily on campaigns. What I thought was interesting and innovative was the inclusion of influencers on a mass scale in the campaign. So Instagram, most of all Instagram, not just Facebook, but Instagram as a space for campaigning. And this happened across the multiple parties. Some parties, like I would argue, motorists for themselves, and I'm sure you will hear a lot about them tonight. They actually have two influence. I mean, this is in their DNA. Their leader is an influencer and made it into politics from influencing. And I think it's interesting that they have both male and female. So the female candidate, Mrs. Sedláčková, who won her seat, is a trad wife influencer on Instagram. And of course, then they also have male influencers who go around on cars and motorbikes. So this is for the campaign. I will just select 3 points for what I found most important about the results. So Andrej Babiš is back. I think this is self-explanatory. He has achieved a historic victory by consolidating protest and anti-system votes in a last-minute move to moderation. And I think that it's very important what Michel has shown us, because the presidential elections, where you have just two candidates, were actually a permission structure for many SPD, so other populist parties voters and extreme party voters, to actually go for Babiš. And his final call was, you know me, you know what I will do for you, go for the devil you know. Basically, that was the thing. Second point I think is very important is the deepening of regional polarization. ANO dominated in poorer, post-industrial, border, peripheral regions, while the 5K coalitions held major cities and Prague. So the country remains two-pillar democracy, and the political competition is happening between actors within these two pillars. Collapse of the traditional left. This is Michel's issue, so I won't go there too much, but we have seen that actually going extreme hasn't worked for Sarah Wagenknecht in Germany. So this kind of mixture of nativism, you know, when you go so far to the left that you end up in the right, so kind of mixture of nativism and welfare chauvinism. And radicalization didn't work for Sarah Wagenknecht in Germany and didn't work for Kateřina Konečná in Germany. They dragged the Social Democrats with them to the bottom. Let's see how that goes. On to end on a more positive note, and that is the democratic realignment from below. So more than ever before, voters used their preferential votes. And I see that as a little revolution against the party headquarters. So the voters wanted more diverse ballots. They didn't get them. and so they reach them. So we have for the first time ever 67 or 66 women entering the Czech parliament. That's the highest proportion, 33% we ever had, 12 MPs under 30 now in the chamber. So I think the voters made it very clear what they want. It also connects to the first point I made about the campaigning and mobilization on social media. And finally, just as a point, I think that Babiš's chameleon populism, his ability to adapt ideologically makes him electorally unbeatable, but also dependent on problematic partners in government. So something that is a huge advantage in campaigning and in winning elections may actually turn into a somewhat Pyrrhic victory in trying to build a stable coalition, and the stress is unstable. So I stop here. Thank you so much, and I look forward to my colleagues' points.
Thanks a lot, Petra. I just salute Michal Pink, who joined us, and I let the floor to Lubomír Kopeček.
Thank you for invitation to this seminar. Simply said, Petra Guasti say the most important things. I select only several points which maybe explain a bit more, some not the same, but important aspects of Czech elections. First thing which could be probably mentioned, in my opinion, if I look to the election result of the Stačilo enough. It's not only important the competition with the ANO, that's absolutely clear what Petra said, but also the problem for this coalition or alliance, the high election turnout. We are in the situation when the Stačilo, this mainly the communist-based partnership or the formation depends on all the communist voters, and if the turnout was higher, that's the problem for this alliance. This is the point which could be mentioned if the turnout will be, I don't know, 60%, the chances of this alliance be in the parliament would be much higher. The second point, which is connected with this alliance, Stačilo enough, which could be mentioned, there was the alliance which includes Social Democrats, and Social Democrats had around in spring 3-4 maybe % of the votes, and it looks in the spring that this alliance would be successful thanks to the cooperation of the communists and Social Democrats. But if you look to the presentation of Stačilo, the Social Democratic aspects completely disappear. I mean mainly the aspects which are connected with the pro-Western orientation. The voters of the Social Democrats, these 3%, more or less, are economic left-oriented, but also there are pro-Western, and in this combination with Stačilo, that was non-acceptable for these people. It's necessary mention because the result would be better probably if this alliance would be something like the French patterns of cooperation, socialist, communist, Greens, and so on, something what would be look more pluralistic. Here, that was the problem, that the Social Democrats completely disappeared in this cooperation. Second bigger point, which could be probably mentioned, if I look to the together, spolu, election coalition, it must be mentioned that the result is worse than in the last elections 4 points less, something like this. But if we look at the reality of the high inflation, the energetic crisis of last years, the lower standards of many people, it's a relatively good result. In this comparison with the environment, it's important to mention that these 23% for this coalition poll is de facto good result. And unluckily for this coalition, not so much votes fell as in the last election 2021. It's probably very important factor. Maybe third, but not last, maybe last point. There is also two small one government and one former government parties, STAN, Mayors and Independence, full name, and Pirates. This second party left the government coalition 1 year ago. For the Pirates, this exit from government was good moment because they were able to revitalize protest appeal, which was important historically for this party, and the election result of Pirates 9% is fine. From this perspective, that 1 year ago they had in the poll something like 4-5% maybe. The second point, Mayors and Independence, if I look to this party, that's visible that this party is now the representation of more liberal, more, how to say it, more urban-oriented Czech voters. That's a bit surprising because historically that was the party which was more based on the periphery. That was the party of local politicians. Now it looks that there is something like the representation of the liberal center of the Czech politics. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I will give the floor to Michal Pink for 5-7 minutes max. I know that you have a presentation. I don't know if you want to share it.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for organizing this webinar and to invite me together with my friends and the colleagues. And for the last general elections, we've already heard all most important information, and I would like to focus on preferential votes. For example, that's the first general elections into the lower chamber of the Czech National Parliament, where the foreign policy was important, up to the number of the preferential votes received by the incumbent Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Prague, Jan Lipavský. He was former member of the Pirates, then he left the Pirate political party 1 year ago, and right now he received one of the best score in the preferential votes. The second point with the electoral campaign, that's the first general elections where it wasn't easy to find the money issue in the electoral campaign. All the times before, one of the key issue was salary, money, tax, redistribution. Right now, it wasn't so important than as before. And the real winner or the key for the future government of Andrej Babiš is right now the specific new political party or candidates lists, motorists. That's a specific, and it's not easy to say what we can expect from this political party, because some of the members are really heavy fiscal conservative members of the old Civic Democratic Party, or really heavy fiscal conservative economists from an international financial bank organization and so on. And right now in the government of Andrej Babiš, I'm afraid that it's not easy to find the consensus how to vote together. That's all from me right now, and thank you very much.
So thank you very much too. And please, Jakub.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I have just a few points regarding the campaign and the results. Regarding the campaign, I was quite surprised how much negativity, how much negative campaigning Spolu propagated into the general public. They used quite a lot of billboards with negative messaging against ANO and Stačilo especially. So I wouldn't expect that, definitely. And on the other hand, the populist party or far-right parties and far-right groups concentrated the negativity into, I think, micro-targeting and many publics on different social networks. They were more creative with using the public opinion, the negative opinions toward government. So it was definitely interesting regarding the campaign. Regarding the electoral result, for me, and I think for most of us, the concentration of electoral support by ANO, I think it was almost unpredictable for sociologists and for political scientists. So we should analyze how to deal with this, how to measure or how to account for this last time switches of support. The next thing regarding the motorists, as a even newer party in our system, unpredictable agent, of course. But what is very important regarding the analysis and the perspectives of motorists is that probably the distribution of transfers of votes towards motorists from older parties were quite even from different camps, and so there was almost even distribution of votes from ANO, from even Spolu, and even from far right. And of course, the most of the support has been generated through the first time voters. And the last thing would be that the paradox of the far right in this election, because far right failed. Definitely, they underperformed our expectations, but they are very close to governmental positions. Actually, maybe the closest attempt to get directly into the government. Yeah, so that's my point.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jakub. Of course, this division I made is artificial, but we will try to get back to some aspects or some perspectives in the discussion after the second round of comments. Let's say about what happened after the publication of the result on Saturday. So we can go reversely. This means we will start with Jakub and get back to Petra.
Okay. So can you repeat that?
So a comment about what happened since the publication of the results, especially the what happened with Andrej Babiš, with the perspective of a new government, and so on.
Yeah. So the situation changed rapidly since the electoral results get into public knowledge, because firstly, Andrej Babiš and his first option would be a minority government with some support from mainly SPD and motorists. But now the situation is changing, because more and more it seems that these parties are willing to govern too. And the last time for the situation of today is that probably motorists are aiming to get ministerial positions directly, and SPD would nominate some experts into government, not partisans.
Okay. Michal?
Okay, thank you very much. And what's the matter during the last 48 hours? One of the questions is right now what to do with the ex-coalition together, SPOLU, governmental coalition. Yes, because that's the three political parties, two of them less than 5% of the votes if they compete individually. Yes. And that's the questions, what to do with the Christian Democrats, TOP, and the Civic Democratic Party for the future. How to prepare for the upcoming senatorial local elections in 1 year. Yes, what to do and how. And for me, it's, for example, very good to look into the party life, what this political party would like to do, how to look for the new leaders or keep the same leader up to the electoral results, and how to prepare the upcoming senatorial and the local elections in 1 year. That's the question for me, number one. And I haven't a good answer today, but the questions are higher than I can expect during the last 48 hours.
Okay, thank you. Of course, I will maybe remember that obviously the majority of all the parties will have a Congress that will prepare what will happen in the next years. Lubomír?
I am only several short notes to probable new government. First, if I look to the motorists party, that's something what is not only new, but is something what is unclear from the point of view of cohesion. Because if you look to the parliamentary party of motorists, you can see half of the deputies which are non-partisan. That's first thing. Second thing, if you look to the individual people in this parliamentary party, that's the mix of professions, mix of different career, mix of different past. This is the probable first risk for the new party, that the motorist parliamentary party will be unstable. And it's also with combination with the very different program of the motorists and the main party. I know probably Michal mentioned this factor that will be also very problematic from the point of view of functioning of new government. Second, if I look at the SPD, far-right SPD, it will be also very risky position for this party be involved to the government, because in history this party was permanent opposition and protest party, anti-establishment party. Now will be part of the establishment. And I think for many voters of SPD, this will be big problem. Conclusion, very short conclusion, it's short. If I look to the future and the stability of new Babiš's or Babiš's managed government, because it's a bit unclear if Babiš will be prime minister or somebody else from the ANO. It will be a bit unclear, but probably unstable future. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. And Petra?
Thank you. So I will add to my colleagues 3 points. One, looking a little bit back, and I think it tells us a lot about the landscape. So the post-election data analysis published by the Czech Radio and done by our colleague Jakub from Olomouc University showed that ANO mobilized voters in municipalities with high unemployment and low education. In 2021, these voices scattered and votes scattered among small protest parties that didn't make it across the threshold. And in 2025, Andrej Babiš reclaimed and unified them. At the same time, there was also demobilization of on the conservative side, especially among Catholics. So in South Moravia and South Bohemia, Catholics in affluent districts simply stayed at home. So Spolu's problem was not persuasion, but turnout. And they turned a lot of people, but not all. So what about, you already heard something about coalition scenarios. I don't have a crystal ball, so I won't talk about it. I just want to tell you that the coalition talks are happening in Andrej Babiš's living room, in his villa in Průhonice, and there are no leaders of ANO party in these first talks. So this also tells you about how ANO is run as a party. And so what is the democratic risk of ANO? I don't think that a lot of risk comes from ANO straight, but it comes, I will recall this chameleon, Andrej Babiš is chameleon, and he will have to give something to his coalition partners. I think the first target is going to be what they all agree about is media independence. Czech national television, Czech radio are going to be their first target. These are parties that fight for the freedom of speech, which actually only means their speech, and everybody else should be shut up. I think the next, which only the SPD and motorists are calling for, is undermining accountability, attack on NGOs. I think when confronted with the fact that the Czech state actually funds mostly sport NGOs, that's not what they mean. They are trying to kind of bring this foreign arguments to Czech Republic, but nobody knows George Soros. Czech Republic is not Hungary. And finally, I think that public debate and political culture will be undermined. Parliament will be like a MMA kind of night. It has already the atmosphere will be very toxic. My final point I want to say, I was asked by some EU and US diplomats what this means for the European Commission and the EU, and I would like to say, like, stop fearing the Eastern monsters. Yeah. And their monsters always sometimes somehow seem to be Eastern that are feared. And I think you have to look at Andrej Babiš. You don't become a billionaire in euro by being like emotional ridden crazy man. This is a guy who likes to make deals. He is very capable to be a rational actor. And so I would say what the leaders should do in Western European countries is to pick up the phone, congratulate Andrej Babiš. And it always takes two to tango. So we should just look at how the European People's Party have embraced Giorgia Meloni, which I would say is much more domestically radical on many cultural issues and on religion than Andrej Babiš and any of his partners are. So if EPP can embrace Giorgia Meloni in a bear hug, there is no reason some selected volunteer, probably Emmanuel Macron, if he finds the time, or somebody else, actually anybody. But I think this is the most important thing. They can and should engage Andrej Babiš. It will make a huge difference for Europe, Ukraine, and Czech Republic. And this is a guy with whom you can make deals. And because if the Western leaders don't pick up the phone and call him, definitely Viktor Orbán, Robert Fico, and people more to the east are eagerly going to call him. And so I think that this is something we should have learned, and pushing these leaders into kind of isolation just pushes them more towards east, and it's to detriment to all of us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Petra. We are now in the phases that we can open the floor for a broader discussion. There is a lot of things that were not mentioned. For instance, the position of the president, eventually his role in the very next future, especially during the composition of the government. It should be also, for instance, the actual or current situation around the attacks against the police, against the prosecutors, against justice, etc., against public broadcasting. So we can go back to a lot of things, and I just invite you to ask questions. And we will take in the first round, let's say 3 questions, and we'll do once again the turning back. I can see you, Sean, from Petra to Jakub. Sean, the floor is yours.
Yes, it's me. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh.
Hi. So I just got a question about. I think it was Michal who said the politics aren't about distribution as they used to be. But this election does seem to be all about the economy. It does seem to be all about cost of living. And I think we've seen this research. I've seen PAQ, but tying Babiš's support to these poorer, more excluded regions. So it seems to be tied to social and economic factors. So I would be interested in all the panelists' views about what is the relationship between economic issues and cultural issues, culture war issues, because Babiš, as far as I can see, downplayed all the cultural stuff that he talked a lot about in 2021. So I'd be interested to know what the panelists think of the relationship between kind of culture wars and economics and social and economic issues in Czech politics.
So thanks a lot. Next question, if I see correctly, from Jean-Michel and then from Jakub.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to know if all the participant research agree with what Petra say about what European leaders can do. Do you agree with Petra that it can be very important what the EPP can do? Are you agree that we can make a deal with Babiš, or because I think it's very, very important, because in Western press, Babiš is Orban, and then it's very important to have. I want to know if you agree, and really, I want to understand what happened in Czech Republic with the left. I'm sorry, I'm very focused about this subject, but sorry, but I cannot understand, because okay, the left in Europe, in all Europe, is not in good condition, globalization, okay, but my friend in Czech Republic, I don't see all the case where the left don't exist, because okay, the left in Poland is weak, but you have Razem, you have different small country, but you have something. In Czech Republic, where the left and why? Can you explain me? Thank you.
Thanks, and Jacopo?
I'm also very curious about the left, and I'm curious to know your opinions on the foreign policy direction of the new government, especially concerning the Russia-Ukraine war. Do you think the strong support for Ukraine that we've seen so far will continue? And more specifically, do you believe the military support might change under the new government?
So, yes, thanks. So we have a set of some questions. So we start with Petra.
Okay. Thank you, Sean, Jean-Michel, and Jacobo. So culture war versus redistribution. I think you can walk and chew a gum. So you can both feel economically deprived and also dislike that the world around you is that the world around you has changed, and women seem to be not willing to do exactly what you would wish. So I think that the parliament will be, it will be the perfect cocktail of this, with motorists on one hand and female-dominated pirates. I think that we are going to see things we have never expected to see in the parliament. So I think the redistribution issue, and that connects into what Jean-Michel said. I think, yes, we are a relatively economic, but the Czechs don't want to hear that. When you tell them that we are an OECD country, we are one of the richest countries in the world, that doesn't count. People who vote for Andrej Babiš and for these parties, they feel economically deprived. So one of the, not necessarily, there were two, let's say, non-winning campaign slogans by the Spolu coalition. One was that the Prime Minister Fiala tried to go populist and was talking about Nutella, this hazelnut spread being cheaper and better quality in Germany. That works for populists, but not for a non-populist. And second was that we will have salaries like in Germany. So what I want to say, that a perception of your own economic status is relative to what you compare yourself to. And I would like to recall that like 30 years ago, Czechs were promised that we are going to live like Germany. So it was Václav Klaus. So I recalled it when Prime Minister said we are going to have German prices and German salaries. I was like, okay, are you ripping off Václav Klaus from mid-90s? But yes, but we still don't. And I think that for many people is bad. And it doesn't mean they cannot go on holidays. They do, but they just feel that it's not. They just feel that it's not right. And as for the foreign policy, I think at this moment both is possible, Jacopo. It can go either way. I think that the thing Andrej Babiš hates on the Czech ammunition initiative, so Czech Republic has already purchased more than 1.5 million ammunitions for Ukraine. The thing Andrej Babiš dislikes about it is that Mr. Sternat, the owner of the military-industrial complex, Czech Republic, also in US, became richer than Mr. Babiš himself. So I won't joke that we should buy Andrej Babiš ammunition factory, and then the ammunition would be like doubled. But I also want to put that on the table. This is a guy who is driven by self-interest. He entered politics because he was tired of dealing with politicians. His companies are dependent on EU and national subsidies, and this constrains him. This is the constraint he has. He wants this money to keep flowing. His companies are heavily over-leveraged with bank loans. So actually inflation is good for him. So he doesn't care about pumping money into the economy, because that will make what he owes to the banks cheaper. And it doesn't matter how and I think that is two small things we didn't put on the table yet. That is the fragmentation in the parliament. There will be 13 parties, many of these, so SPD is actually 4 parties. So this is going to be out of control, and holding any coalition Mr. Babiš will build together is going to be difficult. And the next, he is not going to be officially asked to form a government until he resolves the issue with his company. It's actually illegal because Czech Constitutional Court ruled. So either he becomes prime minister and then his companies don't get any money, but the debts are still there. So basically he has 30 days. He says he will make it, but he has always lied. So I think this is the conflict of interest, and then perhaps the immunity if we get to it. But I wanted to say the fragmentation, the instability that he is going to be saving, and that is one thing which, like 4 years ago, if we said here, many of us would say that this coalition of 5 parties will not hold together. Mr. Babiš is now dealing with SPD, which is 4 or 5, depending how you take it, and motorists, which are at least 2. And he is not used to, actually, he's neither a professor of political science nor a consensual person who would want to deal with his coalition partners. That's why he wants a minority government and them on the outside. So thank you.
Thank you, Petra. Lubomír.
Petra, again, say all important. First thing, second, for question of Sean is nice. If I am thinking what's happened in this election, it's visible that ANO, SPD and Stačilo enough had very similar culture rhetoric. That was the rhetoric of culture war, but from the point of view of voters, the more important was economy, and the most realistic alternative with contrast with Fiala government was ANO. And if I am voter which is not decided, that was the situation of 25, maybe 30% of Czech voters before election, you can choose among the three parties with similar culture rhetoric appeals and with one which is probably the most economically skillful, the ANO. And this is the result in elections, 34% of votes for the ANO, 4% for enough, and 8% for the SPD. I think for the dissatisfied voters, it was visible that economy and skillful to do something with economy was the most important or more important. Second thing, I agree with Petra that Babiš is not Orbán. That's definitely right. He's pragmatic. He is based in Central Europe. I mean that his holding is in Czech Republic, Poland, Austria, Germany, Slovakia, maybe in other countries. I agree that he wanted the good relationship with the mainstream of EU, and he wanted and needs European Union. But there is one point which is a bit controversial from the point of European Union, conflict of interests. If I look to the Babiš Prime Minister career in 2017 and 2021, that was the time of the conflict with European Union about his conflict of interest, about his combination of economic power, his holding, with the position of Prime Minister. I think this is the controversial point, most controversial point with the relationship to the European Union, and we don't know what will be. That's open situation and unclear what will be the relationship in this point. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Michal?
Thank you very much. And right now I would like to agree with both speakers before me. Yes, the first question about the economic issue. The economic issue was perceived by the voters of Enough, Andrej Babiš, and SPD, by the voters, but by the political parties wasn't so often manifested as, for example, 20-25 years ago. And one of the specificity of the Czech society right now or since 2015 is that here is specific situation with unemployment rates much lower than in other European countries, and the labor force is missing, mainly for Andrej Babiš, because he needs a labor force from abroad. That's why, for example, the wages in some specific sectors are higher than any time before. And that's associated also with an Andrej Babiš, because Andrej Babiš, at the first point, he is a businessman. He needs money, he needs to control everything, and he needs to compete with another rich man in the Central Europe to become much more richer and richer. And that's, for example, the key explanation of his behavior towards the other important people in the business. He is not politicians, but he is a trader and a businessman. And for the European policy, Andrej Babiš is not a second Viktor Orban. Andrej Babiš would like to prepare a specific manifesto for the voters to receive the votes. But secondly, he is, I think, much more pro-European than anyone else.
Thanks also. And lastly, Jakub.
Okay, 3 questions. Maybe I will start with the cultural wars. Why this issue wasn't that much present in the current campaign. From my point of view, there wasn't one unified target for being too much culturally liberal, because only pirates and sometimes mayors are labeled as progressivists, but definitely not the rest of governing parties like ODS. They are culturally quite conservative, actually. So for Andrej Babiš would be quite hard to attack on the coalition government from this position. So he tried to attack on pirates usually, but they were kicked out from the government, and from that point, I think that it wasn't that much competition for Andrej Babiš. So that's why I think he focused more on economic issues. Second question: why left doesn't exist? Great question. From my research so far, part of the story is the structure of electoral support of ČSSD, so Social Democrats, because from my point of view, there wasn't really strong core of social democratic voters supporting this party, and for very long time the voters were like opportunistic, because social democrats were very successful under Miloš Zeman, and it was also kind of a populist leader at first, at least in the beginning. So how much this is different from what is now Andrej Babiš? It can be at least a little bit similar situation. And when social democrats attempted to institutionalize and new party elites, mainly regional elites, appeared, the magic disappeared. And so this is for erosion of the left. Of course, this is just part of the story. And foreign policy direction, I think this will be part of discussions regarding the formation of government, because Babiš, on one hand, want to be seen with European leaders. He loves it, and he want to resuscitate V4 project, but there will be troubles with Poland, of course, with this, because Andrej Babiš said that he wouldn't support Poland in a case of war. So he's persona non grata in Poland now, at least for now. So I think he would have balanced this foreign situation and domestic policy, because in domestic policy he is critical to, for example, ammunition initiative, and both coalition partners are not that much inclined to support the Ukraine. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Thanks. So we can open the floor for a second round of questions. Maybe just in order to propose the floor. Sorry, now, okay, let's go.
Very much for this very interesting analysis of elections. I mean, these elections have been scheduled a week after the Moldovan election, and the first question that raised into my mind is, can you elaborate a little bit on the voting behavior of the diaspora first? And was there anything special? I mean, in different countries from Eastern Europe, diaspora becomes increasingly relevant. The other topic of, curiosity I have is, once again, in Moldova, in Poland, and definitely in Romania, we had a lot of misinformation and disinformation campaign. Anything related to this, let's say, aspects? And last but not least, is it possible to identify a change in the voting behavior among younger voters? How did they vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Sorina. If nobody else, maybe just a question, comment. You did not, Tim, wait just a minute. You didn't mention when we spoke about the economic and cultural issues. None of you spoke about the immigration as one of the themes of this campaign. And it was especially visible during the campaign, but also after the campaign, especially a sort of, let's say, misunderstanding about what means immigration, if it's about the Ukrainians who are stalling the work for Czech people. On the contrary, the Muslims that are eventually one of the big problems of the future. Tim, I let you speak. Hello.
Firstly, merci beaucoup, děkuji moc krát for a really interesting session. So I wanted to quickly ask two questions. One, we haven't spoken much about the future of Spolu. So I wonder if you could say what you think the future would be. It's interesting that Spolu, coming together and having a very strong anti-Babiš rhetoric was probably influential in mobilizing a lot of voters. But I wonder if you think that the three components of Spolu in the future would be better off trying to work independently, or whether you think that Spolu should continue. And secondly, a cheeky question, but as you know, I'm interested in new political parties. So if you were thinking of creating a new political party now in the Czech Republic post this election environment, what ingredients would you throw into the mix? Děkuji moc krát.
Thanks for those questions, for all the questions. So I will maybe mix the comments of you. This means that I will start with Michal.
Thank you very much to giving me a floor. I would like to start with the questions of Sorina, how the young generation votes. That's the pirates. If we look into the demographic of the votes, the young generation mostly votes the pirates. For example, the average age is 25, less than 30, yes. And the second point, the first newcomers to the elections voted the motorists. And it's up to the perceiving of the change in the society. If the change is the opportunity for you or for the young generation, they vote pirates. And if the change is the threat, they vote motorists. That's the most important point, how the young generation perceive the change. Yes. And thank you very much, Tim, with your questions. What to do with Spolu? Right now, it's about 10 minutes ago, Peter Fiala officially announced that he stopped with the leadership of Civic Democratic Party, and that's the end of the Spolu. Yes. And I'm afraid that right now, during the next 3-6 months, that's the negotiation if Christian Democrats and TOP would like to cooperate together or what to do. But Civic Democratic Party, for the party life, prefer the independent candidate lists. That's the clear right now, because Peter Fiala and the Spolu, it's joined together. And if the Peter Fiala is not the leader of the Civic Democratic Party, I don't believe that the Spolu together can exist anymore in the future. Yes. And my colleague, yeah. I think, would like to answer the other questions. Yes.
Okay, Lubomír? You disagree, obviously.
Spolu together. Nice speculation we can do. I, in this moment, partly agree with Michal, but partly not. The situation is simple. We have two small formations, Christian Democrats and Top 09, which need some partner in the parliamentary elections. Not only in the election to Chamber of Deputies, but also to the Senate. Because they are relatively small and that's necessary to build something bigger. In ODS is now big dissatisfaction with Spolu, and Michal is right. Yeah, it looks that now Spolu is finished, but we don't know what will be after in next Senate election, that will be after 1 year, or in the next parliamentary elections, because the support of ODS, in my opinion, will be more or less similar like 1 or 2 years ago, around 12% more or less. And if ODS wanted to be bigger and more successful, that must be cooperated with some other subjects, and these subjects can be Christian Democrats and Top 09. I agree with the Michal statement that the Spolu is for this moment finished, but what will be after 1 year, 2 years, we will see.
Maybe just if I can ask you to explain what means the dissatisfaction of the ODS with the Spolu coalition, in order to be sure that our colleagues from abroad are understanding well what it is about.
There's a specific situation, because in the general elections, the voters can vote for the candidates list and also to give the preferential votes. And the candidates from the smaller political party, for example, Christian Democrats, receive more preferential votes than the members at the candidates lists of the Civic Democratic Party. The problem is that the voters of Civic Democratic Party vote for the whole list and don't use the preferential votes so often as the voters of Christian Democrats or TOP. But the paradox is that the preferential votes receive, for example, the candidates of the Civic Democratic Party from the position number 4, 5th, 6th, and jump to the first position and receive the mandates. And for example, the leader of the candidates list right now is out of the chamber. And that's the dissatisfaction in a party life, in a political secretary, that the ranking of the people, yes, at the candidates list was changed by the voters.
Yes,
that's the source of this dissatisfaction.
I just remember maybe that 4 years ago it was the brutal problem of the pirates that get totally run out by the mayors. Petra wanted to react also.
Yes, I just wanted to add to this. I think, look, in a nutshell, what will happen with the parties after Spolu. I think Christian Democrats have a clear identity. They have a youth party wing. They have relatively stable electorate. It's a politically center left party on economy and conservative on identity. Top Zero now basically doesn't exist. It doesn't have a chairperson, so it's very flexible. It's liberal on identity and liberal economically. And the biggest problem is ODS. ODS has acted many times in this governing coalition between 21 and 25, as in the good old times when they still had 30%, when they are at 13%. And I think this was to the detriment. So I think many in ODS are kind of still remembering the good old times. And what I want to say, I disagree partially with Michal. Also in ODS, the people know how to change the ballots. There is a Česko Plus. It's a kind of a young guns kind of people, backbenchers who want to change the party. They campaigned and they got 9 of their members into the chamber. And finally, in Libre, a 25-year-old young first-time female candidate jumped to let's say leader of the local ODS and his right hand. So when I went 2 months ago to Libre, or 1.5 months ago to Libre, there were all these white dudes on the posters, middle-aged, and now the elected MP is a 25-year-old young woman. So what I think that also in ODS, it's the daughters taking on the fathers. I mean, these are general trends. And what I think is similar in Czech Republic like elsewhere is that young women, and there is a growing gap between political orientation of young men and young women. Young men are more going for the motorists and for the conservative parties, and young women are more going for let's say center left parties. But it doesn't mean that it's an absolute. As I said, there is a female Tradwife influencer in the motorist. I cannot wait to watch some of her videos. I didn't watch them yet. And so that's on this. And if I may, so Tim asked about, so that's to Tim. If I was to find a party, and I will be a bad person, I will say I would find a party that is called Social Democratic Party, because I think that's something Czech Republic could use. And this is just because I think that Mrs. Maláčová and Mr. Zaorálek killed a party that was one of the oldest social democratic parties, but also what killed it is the voters. Michel asked about immigration. Yes, I think it was a lot of performance. I think Mr. Babiš has 1,200 reasons not to get rid of the migrant workers from Ukraine. That's the number of Ukrainian employees in his conglomerate. So I think that will depend on the relative power. I assume they will do something performatively. There is nobody stealing Czech jobs. That is the point. There is a low unemployment. What is happening is that the presence of Ukrainian workers, that is the demand from employers actually, is lowering the wages or keeping the wages low. So I want to say that the grievance of the people who work in these factories is real and objectively true. But it is not the grievance against the Ukrainians; it's the grievance with those who invite them. For diaspora, only bad Czechs like me go away, so we don't have a lot of diaspora. We had for the first time ballot. Mail-in ballots, and it doubled. But when we are talking about doubling the vote, it's like in Paris, it's like 1,300 people. Like it's not 13,000. It's like Czechs really don't migrate so much, and you would more see them using it from Austria because they are on holiday, not because they are migrants. So Czechs, if they migrate, they only migrate cross-border, short-term, and come back in the evening. And I think young voters we touched, and disinformation. I just asked today, actually, I went to a colleague to ask, like, why don't Russians try to disinform us like the Slovaks? And I thought that, and I want to say that it's his point, and he said, well, because they don't need to, because we are already divided. So the main strategy of Russian disinformation is societal divisions, and I think Mr. Babiš has been more effective in that than Russian disinformation, so they can spare the cash for some other stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, and Jakub didn't speak.
Okay, regarding the diaspora, as it has been said, the diaspora is very weak in the Czech case, and they are usually young people, very well educated, so they are supporting liberal parties mostly. There are like isolated islands, for example, old migrants to United States, for example. So I think that I know there are some isolated groups of Trumpists like voters, so they are more conservative, let's say, but it's not definitely the general position. Regarding the younger voters, I think educational gap will appear very soon, because a lot of previous governments supported vocational kind of education. So yeah, it's mostly men, women, and educational gap, where non-educated young men are supporting far right and motorists and this stuff. Future of Spolu. I think it's this time it's a typical electoral coalition, and it will disappear in opposition, because now in opposition, I think the parties would try to create a new profile for themselves. They will try to re-elect leaders and the whole leadership of the parties, but the Spolu as a trademark will disappear, at least for now. So they will focus on themselves to renew the parties, but they will be definitely collaborating in opposition. So they will be coordinating their votes in parliament, and we will see what's going to happen before the next election, and because probably there will be new kind of coalition, or maybe some parties will merge together, and because it seems obvious that there is too much parties on this part of spectrum. So this leads me to a new party idea. So I would wait when top 09 will merge with ODS, and then I would create top 09 2.0.
So maybe no cyclist party, but who knows? Another question from anybody here? Yes, Sean.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. You have the title of the event, Game Changer. So, is the election a game changer? I sense maybe not, but I would just be interested in what people think about that.
So it should be the last question, and of course, no, Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I go back to one thing that Petra said, which was very interesting? She was talking about the role of influencers, and also we've talked a lot about preference voting. So I just wondered, to what extent do we see in the campaigning of the influencers a lot of emphasis on particular candidates rather than parties? Is this maybe part of the story as to why voters are more aware of the choices that they have and to use those choices, the preference vote in the election? Thank you. Děkuju.
Thanks a lot, and we can answer to all these questions and take it as a conclusion or concluding remarks. And we will start with Lubomír.
Okay. Maybe if I thinking about preferential voting, I am not expert, but if I look for which party is the most important, it's the Pirates, which have the liberal young voters, which are open not only for the right of women, but also for the experiments generally. And similar case is, in my opinion, the case of the mayors and independents. The preferential votes in Spolu, what mentioned probably Michal, if I remember well, that's the question of discipline of the Christian Democrats, which votes for the Christian Democrats inside Spolu. This is probably visible what happened in many regions. Game changer. I think these elections were very peaceful. That's maybe one moment which is nice. We have attack of one voter to Andrej Babiš, if I remember well. That was the physical attack. One old man attacked Mr. Babiš. But that was only emotional or strong emotional moment of these elections. If I compare it, for example, with the elections of 2017, that was the big scandal, the lithium scandal, which influenced strongly many voters which vote for the ANO, which say, yeah, social democracy stole the, I don't know, lithium. That was a rubbish case, but the influence was visible. I think these elections were fine. No big scandals.
Okay, thanks. Petra?
I think I agree. I will return the favor. I think Lubomír has said everything. It was uneventful. I think perhaps it's important to say that in Czech Republic, some voters really decide last minute. So according to, I think, STEM, the numbers I've seen, especially for the mayors and for the Pirates, people actually decided the very morning of the vote between them. So that tells you very much about the loose or non-existent linkage that exists among political parties, that leads to a lot of volatility. It's not a volatility on values, because I think people are very clear about that. It's more a volatility about who will carry this value. So I think for me, or I think for many, we have been. This is far from the best case scenario, but it's also not the worst case. It's like my third from the bottom worst scenario. I think the eye of the political scientist always goes to the extremes, and I spend way too much time on the website of the Svatopluk group, and reading everything about regime change and so on. And that happens when political scientists radicalize and start to find a openly neo-fascist movement. And I think the biggest takeaway from these elections is that we Czechs don't like this kind of drama. That I think what really weakened SPD and what mobilized the people in the end was that we don't want to go out of the EU. We want to have a beer and talk bad about the EU, what all they demand from us and how little they deliver to us, but we want to do it within the EU, not outside of it. And I think we want to complain that the government is supporting Ukraine, but that doesn't mean we want Russia to win the war. So Czechs are like that. I think we like to complain a lot, or that it's what it showed to me, that the extremes are not really welcome, that there is about 15% of the voters which are for the extremes. We don't know what the motorists are. Maybe there will be a lot of happy marriages of motorists with pirates in the parliament. What do I know? Maybe the demographic crisis is going to be overcome. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what that party is. We know who is funding the party. We know who is behind that party. And perhaps as a final fun point, the Czech presidents, the former Czech presidents, if they are alive, like to mingle into politics. And so Miloš Zeman, the long-term Social Democratic Prime Minister who destroyed Social Democratic Party and was an ally of Andrej Babiš for a long time, supported this chauvinistic, nationalistic Stalinist party, which my PhD student Aleš calls the Stalin's granddaughters. And on the other hand, Václav Klaus is the guy behind, the other former Czech president is behind the motorists. So in a way, we can say that in Czech Republic, Miloš Zeman always got defeated by Václav Klaus. So maybe this was the final match. And again, Václav Klaus is winning. His motorists are in the parliament, and he seems to be very happy.
Okay, thank you, Michal.
Thank you very much for the floor. What to say right now? Everything important we've already heard, yes. But for me right now, during the next 4 years, I would like to expect, for example, what to do with far right and SPD. Because if Tomio Okamura and SPD join the government, I think that the preference get down immediately. And in upcoming general elections, SPD can save the money, and it's not necessary to prepare the candidates lists. The same is it with the motorists, because if the motorists join the government, that's the single issue party for one moment, and that's all. But what's the future? Yes. For example, 3-4 years later, Andrej Babiš is older than anyone else. Yes. And what to do right now? That's the space for example, the new coalition, new political party I don't know. Right now, it's too early to evaluate this situation.
And last comment, Jakub.
Okay, I will be brief regarding the game changer. Maybe it could be from my perspective. This could be end of the phase of party system restabilization or reformulation, because now we have again two different visible blocks, and it could last at least for some electoral periods. The only problem is that ANO is heavily personalized, and it can disappear very quickly. But at least for now, we have a new tendency to bipolarity in the party system. So in this way, this can be a game changer. And regarding the preferential votes and influencers, maybe one interesting aspect for me is Civic Democrats position, because it wasn't only the discipline of Christian Democrats upvote their candidates, but Civic Democrats are, even from Civic Democrats membership base, are quite criticized on some choices of regional leaders, because they've selected some not very popular persons but long-term regional partisans. So they are maybe falling a little bit into the trap as Social Democrats did previously. So it can be warning sign for Civic Democrats. The usage of preferential voters as a specific punishment.
So thanks a lot for this last comment of our webinar. Thanks to all the 4 presenters and commentators. Thanks to all the persons who asked questions. And of course, thanks to all the persons here present with us this evening. And last but not least, of course, thanks a lot for our president, Jean-Michel. And I give the floor back to him.
Thank you very much. It's late, then good evening. And don't forget to send me some proposal for the blog to organize together a new webinar. I think it's very useful to have time, not too many time, but to have time to discuss about new parties. It can be a very interesting subject in the region. Then don't hesitate to propose me. I can assume some administrative task. I hope that it is a beginning of collaboration. So bye. Very good evening.